we already have Mr. Sunder on the dais. Mr. Sunder is going to speak on the changing face of talent, the yin and yang of talent management. Can we have claps for Mr. Sunder Raju?
Morning, everyone. I have a challenge that Colonel Joshniel Raj has given me. One, he said, since you have grey hair, can you get out a message to the people who are in the services, structured environment, and will go into this chaotic world that the rest of the society lives in, and how do you address the challenge of that transition and make it as frictionless as possible. And by the way, I'm going to give you only 10 minutes to do that. So it's like putting me on a bed of hot coals and saying, now run. I think the challenge really is we are in the midst of disruptions happening all around us, and yet we love the idea of structure, process, and existing systems that are reliable. So I kind of debated what it is that we can have a conversation on, and I'm going to be hasty if you will, but do it slowly. If you look at history, there's 400 years, what I would call, of industrial revolution that happened around the world. Then we came down to being a manufacturing revolution that lasted maybe 70 years or so before information technology came along, and its lasted, or its peak has been about 30 years or so. Now we are in the midst, or the beginnings of two revolutions happening together. And handling one revolution for a society is not easy. Handling two revolutions is going to be truly disruptive in a fashion that we don't understand and we don't know how to navigate. So really, it's the journey that some of you who will travel from a structured, disciplined environment to a chaotic environment have to even more handle the chaos of disruption. So it's a two-pronged challenges that you have. And this, I'm told, based on futurists that are looking at these areas, is going to be lasting no more than 20 years or 2 decades before the next set of revolutions come, which means there's a shrinking timeline within which we are needed to change ourselves and go forward and handle it in some way that we don't understand, or we don't have a pathway to make that happen. So I kind of debated as to how do I communicate this to all of you. I don't have good answers, but I'm going to say sometimes a visual is worth 1,000 words. So I'm going to spend the next 1 minute giving one very simple video that I want you all to see.
Makes no difference if you're young or
challenge is, how do we make that happen in adults? And how do we have guides that will make that happen in adults? Really, if you had to say, is there a single word that will describe this? It's for the adult environment. It's self-directed learning. If there's one thing that you must master in this new age, because there's not going to be too much of hand-holding, and I understand there are a lot of CHROs here, they are going through their own set of disruption. They started with the Industrial Revolution and being industrial relations people. In the information technology area, they moved to being CHROs, which basically meant, how do I get my people trained enough to be productive in our environment? And today, as we speak, we're saying we have to learn how to be true people's people, or they'll move from CHROs to CPOs, if you will. And that's a journey that they will go through, and there's a disruption there too, because this new age, they've learned psychometric tests, they have L&D's processes, 25% of the time in training so that you become productive. Now suddenly you're saying there is really no time for all of that. And you have to teach people how, as they come on, how to learn by themselves. So there's new tools, new systems, new processes. CHROs will transition from being CHROs to CPOs, and you are exiting an environment and entering a different environment during this transition that is truly disruptive, not for yourselves alone, but for the entities that are taking you on board. So there's a double whammy, if you will, in terms of how do you go off and handle that. Now, I want to spend another minute, and I'm actually restricting it to a minute because that's all you have in real world time. There's a quatrain that has been written on the sheets that have been given out. Hopefully everyone has it. If you don't have it, maybe the person next to you can peep and look at it and make that read it. But I'm going to give you a minute, no more. There's 32 lines out there, and just a minute to absorb what is there. Some have flipped the page, so I'm going to go off and say, a minute is over. What did you get out of it? If there's a single word that comes to your mind, if people have been read more than half of it, what is it that you get out of it? I'll talk for you. The words that I heard when I posted this thing within my own environment in the university was dense, disparate, and disconnected. And interestingly, the most diplomatic word was dense. At least it said, okay, there's something that I don't understand. Everything else was about saying, I don't think you know what you're doing. You just put some words together, and because it was International Yoga Day, in 15 minutes or so you put something and you wrote it out. Really, if you look carefully at it, and it came from the people who read it, go to the 6th paragraph. There are 2 lines out there, and it starts with apoptosis. There's 6 or 8 words out there. Between those 8 words, there is 80 plus Nobel laureates that have come out. And it's all based on one single thing that every living being has, the cell. One entity the smallest entity possible in a living environment, has created over 80 Nobel laureates, 80 plus really. We stopped counting at 80. The point is, there's so much happening around us that if we open our eyes and we parse it well, there's so much happening that we can live a life just on one word that we parse out of anything that we look at or read or understand. We now have to make sure that this is the environment that you're going to face. Now, you are shrinking it to a point. I mean, if you were to look at those 8 words, there's 80 Nobel laureates who have spent 10,000 hours in building their foundation and 10,000 research material, if you will, pages of material that they've learned to get to where they wanted to be a Nobel laureate. If you add all of them, that's like 8 lakh pages, and now I tell you, go off and discover something new on that cell, and it's possible. It will require all of IMB students working together to read that, parse it, and find something new, and it'll take them a lifetime to do that. Now the point that I'm making is, there's another word that comes to mind, collaboration. Collaboration, self-directed learning are 2 critical, important skills that you need to have. It's not about domain understanding. No more is it about domain understanding. Domain understanding will come if you learn the skill of self-directed learning. It's about how to do self-directed learning, how to collaborate, because it is no more possible for individuals to achieve by themselves what needs to be achieved. The world has gone beyond that ability of an individual to contribute so much that they create a disruption. You have to collaborate. So that's the second message that I want to give the graduating class, if you will, of service people. The third message really is disruption. Disruption will happen so frequently in any space that you are doing that if you're not engaged in that process, you might as well get off the rails and fall by. And unfortunately, it's like saying we're running a bullet train on 160 kilometer capable rail system. That's the speed at which change is happening, and the infrastructure is not there, the support systems are not there to make that happen. So you will have to be able to say, how will I self-direct, how will I collaborate, and how will I disrupt? And this is not the end of it. How do I disseminate disruption to a point where it gets embedded in society? So if you were to take one of these messages and carry it in your lifetime, I think you would have achieved what I would call a new age way of living, being in the moment, in that environment. And the only message that I can tell you is to people, the good thing is you have ability of rigor. That's something that has come ingrained into you that the real civilian world does not have. So you've got an amazing step, if you will, in terms of what you need to do. You have the skills in terms of rigor. So if you adopt and you say, I will play my game in the area of self-directed learning, in the area of disruption, in the area of collaboration, I think the world will be an oyster. Really, I think it's for you people to pick one of these areas, focus on that, get that 10,000 hours within that as soon as possible, and you will be a master of the game. Really, my message is no more than that. And we are grateful that we have people that have served society and the country in the fashion that all of you and your colleagues do. There's no word that can describe that. There is no adjective that can describe that. But the gratefulness comes sincerely, honestly, from deep within the heart of every single individual. It doesn't matter who you talk to. You know, when you talk to a person who's from the services, as a matter of fact, as I stepped in, it felt like I'm in a different environment, an ennobled environment, if you will. So to me, the fact that you are amongst society, you're contributing to society as civilians, is also a contribution that you will make, and you bring what you've learned from the disciplined environment into the society is what will take the society forward faster than it would by itself. Having said this, I really don't want to take a lot more. I just want to tell the CHROs that one of the things that I'm going to ask people here to say, don't be sales hard. That means don't sell your biodata. Be opportunity hard, which means I have a skill that you want. Come and get me if you really want that skill in your place. So the message for the services people who are moving into the civilian world is be opportunity hard, not sales hard, and make them come to you rather than you go knock on their doors. Thank you very much.